In the nearly 2 months since Israel's current bombardment of the Gaza Strip began, Canadian cities have seen daily demonstrations opposed to Israeli aggression and calling for a permanent ceasefire. While Canada's government remains steadfast in its support of Israel,
Oh my God, you look fresh.
there's been a wider shift in public opinion.
We, the people, refuse to have the blood of thousands of Palestinians on our hands.
In recent weeks, there have been constant actions targeting banks, railways, highways, shipping ports, arms suppliers, elected officials, and entangled companies. Labor unions, neighborhood groups, Jewish organizations, and students have organized walkouts, sit-ins, blockades, and demonstrations demanding a permanent ceasefire and an end to Canada's complicity in the violence. On top of these actions, the tactic of bird-dogging, or hammering politicians with questions the mainstream press are too timid or not allowed to ask in the case of CTV, has been setting fire to the internet with viral clips, which have the potential to do real political damage in the next election cycle. Many believe that bird-dogging from climate activists targeting the previous Harper government was instrumental in laying bare the gross disparity between public opinion and government policy on climate issues. Now, a similar discrepancy is emerging between an increasingly anti-war public opinion and the actions of the Trudeau government. In a recent clip, Trudeau was trapped in a Michelin star restaurant for over 2 hours in Vancouver when a group of protesters erupted with chants for a ceasefire, a call supported by 71% of Canadians according to a recent poll, in addition to 23 members of his own cabinet and the United Nations. When directly asked about his stance on a ceasefire on a trip to DC, Trudeau fumbled his words, awkwardly cutting himself off after uttering half the phrase.
We need to see a cease. We need to see a humanitarian pause. We need to see ceasing of the levels of violence that we're seeing.
The official position of the Trudeau government is to support humanitarian pauses, but not a permanent ceasefire, essentially allowing Israeli aggression to resume unchecked at a later date. It's a position that makes sense when considering the $21.3 million in weapons Canada exported to Israel last year. In the same breath, Trudeau will argue that
Illegal settlements are not only against international law,
and then go on to claim that
the singling out of Israel at the United Nations is not helpful.
by hinting at Israel's violation of international law, yet leaving no meaningful recourse for addressing these violations, Trudeau is literally wagging his finger with one hand while using his other to open an escape hatch for Israel to avoid prosecution for crimes committed in part by Canadian-made weapons.
I think that we're seeing right in front of us the huge shift in public opinion in Canada, and the Liberal government is pretending that they're not seeing some of the biggest protests over the past 10 years in Canada. They're pretending that they're not seeing the literal sit-ins shutting down MP offices across the country. There's only so long that they can continue to block their eyes, block their ears, and not listen to what it's so obvious everyone across Canada wants. I think this is a watershed moment for resistance and movements for justice in Canada. We are seeing tens of thousands of people in the major cities across Canada showing up to their first protests ever, showing up to take direct action to physically block weapons facilities, to physically block the centers of business, the banks that are funding genocide in their cities. These are skills and experience that people are gaining that are not going to go away in a week.
I feel like in the last 7 weeks, the mobilization we've seen, for me, has eclipsed anything that I've been a part of in terms of how long it's lasting and how continuous and large the mobilization is.
This kind of movement is going to have major implications for Canadian politics, and it's really a mask-off moment for people. People see that the discourse of the Liberal Party is entirely a sham, and that the Liberal Party is actually complicit in genocide.
As the movement for Palestinian liberation grows, so does the chance of Israeli aggression becoming a wedge issue in the next election. While the NDP's position on the matter may be more palatable to the general public, the party is also responsible for keeping the Liberals in power under the current NDP Liberal coalition. It's a delicate balance of power that could be just one strong social movement away from collapse. Could this be it?